Support the show and get your Everyone Loves Guitar t-shirts, hoodies, and mugs at guitarmerch.com, where you'll also find other cool music and guitar t-shirts. That's guitarmerch.com. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. We got a great guest, a really cool artist, Michelle Malone. And I just want to thank our mutual friend, Patty DeVries, for hooking us up. Patty, thank you. You're great. Let me give you Michelle's background real quick. She's a singer, songwriter, guitarist, and producer from Atlanta. This is amazing. You are prolific. She's released 19 albums since 1988. Most of these are solo LPs, as well as with a band called Drag the River, and they have some great live records with Drag the River. She's got a new album out called 1977, which we'll talk about. In addition to her solo career, she's also recorded on records and collaborated with Amy Ray, who was on this show a while back, the Indigo Girls, of course, Tinsley Ellis, Drivin and Cryin, Greg Allman, Shawn Mullins, Little Feat, Albert King, Johnny Winter, Lonnie Brooks, ZZ Top, Robert Cray, Keb Mo, Rory Block, Chris Whitley, Steve Earle, KT Tunstall, Shawn Colvin, Jackson Browne, James Taylor, Joan Osborne, and others. So she doesn't play around. Her music has been played on major network television and been recorded by the Indigo Girls, for which she received both gold and platinum records. And you can see them right behind them there, gold and platinum records. Michelle's music is primarily in Americana, roots, and blues genre. She is a total badass on guitar, and she plays a very mean slide. I would love you to check out her YouTube channel in addition to some of the records we'll be talking about today. Hey, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Craig. That's quite a list.
You're welcome.
It sounds ridiculous.
That was impressive. I know.
That's the culmination of a long career. Those things just don't all happen at once, right?
Yeah, of course. It's like why does one back surgeon get 20 grand for surgery and the other one gets 5? It's for the 1,500 or the 5,000 operations he or she has done in the middle, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's get started. Much of your music is very gritty roots music, which is why I like it. And it's strongly influenced by blues and gospel. And I know you started playing when you were very young, but I was curious where these influences come from and what is it about this music that moves you?
I grew up, my mom's a singer, and her mom's a singer. And professionally, and so my mother had all these great records. So grandmother sang music theater and opera and whatever the pop music of her day was. Mom the same, and so I got a great musical education of music, everything from Mozart to Led Zeppelin and everything in between. And it felt to me in the 70s like there was a lot of blues-based, even a little jazz-based pop music, which my family has always latched onto. I mean, I remember hearing Billie Holiday and Mahalia Jackson in my house when I was little. But I also remember hearing Linda Ronstadt and Bonnie Raitt. So it's just a nice conglomeration of it all for me and my background. So I grew up with my mom, right, and she always gravitated towards jazz and blues, end of pop, instead of more of the country singer-songwriter thing. And that was just her personal taste. So that's kind of what I grew up hearing, So it's ironic. In my dad's side of the family, they loved country music, and they loved hee-haw and so when I grew up there on the weekends, I would get that, and during the week, I would get the other. So I kind of got it all. And when I became...
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. When I started playing guitar, it's so much easier to gravitate towards the 3 chords in a simple Americana type song, or even a simple rock song or blues song. So it all worked out to me. If I could play it on guitar, that's what I wanted to do. I had some limitations at 11.
Yeah, I think we all have limitations at 11. Hope you weren't this hard on yourself at 11.
Well, you can't. I remember trying to play an F chord, F as in Frank, and that almost stopped me from learning the guitar.
It's tough. That first bar chord's a killer, man. It really is.
Yes, it is.
How did you first get your career started, and what were some of the challenges early on as far as getting things moving?
I had been playing guitar for several years and sort of started writing, maybe in high school or in college. And then my college roommate really liked this duo called the Indigo Girls that was playing, they were playing this little bitty club in Atlanta. And no one had really heard of them, so we went. And I met them that night, and then we all went to breakfast, and then they learned I played guitar and wrote songs, and they were actually kind of angry at me for not performing out. It was almost like they were scolding me because I should be out performing. And they were right, and they invited me to play a couple songs in between their sets at this little venue the next time they played there, and that's how I got started. And then we became fast friends. We wrote songs together. I sang on their first and second and third and fourth and fifth, records, and we have been touring with them, opening for them and playing in their band since the 80s. So I really do give them most of the credit. And outside of that, it would be my mother, just because I watched her in the music industry, and I still ask her advice. I've got this situation, or Mom, I played this great show last night, and just tell her about it. That's how we relate.
That's really cool. Let me ask you this. So the first time you played up on stage, the Indigo Girls, now the Indigo Girls were earlier in their career. They weren't, as they were today.
Yeah, they didn't have a record out yet.
How did you feel, though? Like, were you scared shitless, or?
Well, I had been singing in church, and I had been singing in school, and I played in church, and I had performed with bands and talent shows and little things like that. I just hadn't, I didn't think I was ready. Like you said earlier, I'm so hard on myself. I was like, oh, I'm not ready. So I was scared to death. I remember my knees knocking. I was so scared. And I played maybe 3 or 4 songs because that was about all I had. And they weren't very good. But it was a start,
Yeah, that's so cool. So I don't know if this is correct. I read this, and even though everything on the internet is usually correct, I'm just prefacing with this. You left school when you got a recording contract from Clive Davis at Arista, and this was for your record Relentless with Drag the River, which was produced by Lenny Kaye from Patti Smith's band. So I had a few. First of all, is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay.
I put out an
so I had a few questions.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to add that I had released an independent record in maybe 87 or 88, and that I think is what was the stepping stone to getting signed to Arista. Back then, you put out independent records as a means to getting on another label, a bigger label. It was like stepping stones. And now most everyone just puts out independent records because it's better.
I know. Go figure, right? It's like, so you put this record out. Somebody over at Arista noticed, and then and Clive Davis signed you, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What was that experience like? And also, what did you learn about what you liked and disliked about the music business from that whole experience?
Well, this was when I was about 22 or so, and I have been a very rebellious person most of my life. I mean, I've honed my rough edges at this point, but I don't think I was really ready for that situation and the gravity of it. And I might have been my own worst enemy. So while I wanted a record deal and wanted to tour and sell records and, you know, get my name out there, I didn't care for being on a corporate label. You know, it's always art versus commerce. You like the money, but you want your creative freedom. You're young and dumb and willful, and people are trying to tell you what to do or offer their advice, and you don't take it, all that kind of stuff. So that was my experience. It was, I think everybody there really tried to do a good job by me and tried to help me to the best of their ability. But at the end of the day, honestly, the record came out in 1990, and we were not a hair band. We were just a basic rock band, but there was a sea change going on from hair bands to indie rock bands like Nirvana. And we didn't
totally
fit in any of those categories. And when they sent the record to radio, a lot of the radio stations, the vast majority of them, actually said, we're already playing 3 other female artists. We can't play anymore. So
holy shit.
The timing was a little
they actually said that. Wow.
Yeah,
that's wild.
The truth is not always pretty. So I think it was probably like, you know, Pat Benatar, Melissa Etheridge, and who knows who else. Because it went to rock radio. So maybe Heart.
Right.
But that was, you know, the climate back then. I don't blame anyone.
Let me ask you this. You said something that was perked my ears because I was very similar. And if you're comfortable talking about it, you use these 2 words. You said I was willful and rebellious most of my life. Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah, I feel like we should get my mom.
Okay, because or your therapist, one of the 2. Well, because I was very willful and rebellious, and when I stopped being like especially willful my whole life, like I was like, shit, why didn't I do this like 30 years earlier? You know, it was like, so I was just curious what, again, to whatever extent you're comfortable, what was the trigger for you to realize, man, you know, this willful stuff, I can just do things organically and like have about 1 million times less stress?
Yeah. I'm not sure. It's been in recent years, you know, last 5 years or so, maybe. I don't know what brought it on. It's just you start to learn. You see your own patterns, and I am very aware of when I'm starting to cut my nose off to spite my face, or when I should shut up. I'm still honing that second part, but yeah, it wasn't any one moment. It's just honing the rough edges. You know how it is.
Yeah. Thank you. And then ultimately, as you talked about indie labels, you wound up forming your own record label, SBS Records. A few questions. What are some good things that have come from that?
Well, gosh, I've been able to have a long career because of it. I'm convinced. I have artistic freedom, which can be very good. Doesn't mean I don't have help or that I don't ask for others' input. And I'm a good delegator now, so, you know, it is difficult to navigate a lot of those waters, and it was harder 10, 20 years ago than it is now. But it was difficult getting people to take it seriously before the advent of Ani DeFranco. And when she busted out and she was independent, it became more widely accepted and it was easier to get distribution and things like that.
Gotcha. Having control of like not having to deal with corporate nonsense probably was a lot more up your alley as well, I'm sure.
Well, that definitely fits my personality better. But it's a lot of work, and to tour and run a record label and have a life, still get to see your family and things like that. It's a balancing act. But there's a lot of people who do it. You know, a lot of people who are entrepreneurs and find the balance between all the things.
Sure. Thanks. I want to ask you, you work with some really cool artists, and I was just curious about a few of the things you did. If you could talk about how the gig came about, and if you have a cool or interesting story about it. One of my heroes, like Albert King, how the hell did that happen? He was
touring through Atlanta, and this would have been in the 80s, the late 80s. And I don't know, when I hit in the 80s, in Atlanta at least, I hit really big. And I was kind of the it girl for 5 minutes or whatever. And I was chosen to open for a lot of larger names that came to town because I guess I pulled in, I could sell tickets, you know. So I would guess that was why. And I remember it was at an old R&B club called the Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. And people like, you know, James Browne had played there back in the day, and when Jimi Hendrix was in his band, you know, so it had quite a history, and everyone who was anyone used to play there back in the day, like maybe 50s, 60s kind of a thing, 70s. And so I remember being asked to play the gig, and I was excited, although I wasn't incredibly aware of him at that point because I was pretty young and still learning about a lot of things, a lot of good music to come. And he did, like I said, I was rebellious and willful, right? So I was probably griping and bitching and moaning about sound check or the gig or the dressing room or lack thereof, I don't know, but I'm sure I had a big mouth. And somehow it came about that he had heard me moaning and ended up calling me that, and I kept the name. For a while it was like moaning Michelle Malone when I got into the slide and the blues based thing. But I didn't really pay attention to it because that was 15 years later or so, 12 years later. It just was something that popped in my head, you know. And I'm sure he was being sarcastic, and it was this kid bitching and moaning. I don't know. It could have been worse.
Do you remember anything about this? Sorry, what's that?
Do I remember anything about the show?
Yeah.
It wasn't any
working with him?
particular great show for me. It was just a show, but I remember.
Okay.
If my memory serves me correctly, and there's a good chance it doesn't, the Georgia Satellites backed him up. And
wow.
Yeah. Now, I could be wrong because that could have been Bo Diddley because I saw that too. And they were the other guys that always got called to back up people. But either way.
The Satellites?
They were good days. Yeah. Those were good friends of mine back then.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny when I was listening to your music.
Talent. Sorry.
Definitely. No, it's cool. I was just going to say when I was listening to your music, I said, man, because I had Peter Stroud on here. I said, I wonder if, big Atlanta guy, and I said, I wonder if Peter's played with you. And sure enough, he has. He played on a couple or one or two of your records, I think, right?
Yeah. I think everyone here that has any background in classic rock, people our age and people who play guitar, we've all we've all played together, recorded together, mixed together, toured together, whatever. But I have
that's
other added plus of having a foot in that world and then a foot in the singer-songwriter world. So I kind of got I was never on the fence. To me, it was all just one thing, sort of like Neil Young, right? Or the early Stones, they always had an acoustic guitar chugging away under the band on a record, in the early days anyway, and it really drove it. So to me, it was all the same.
Sure. Johnny Winter, what was that? What happened there? How did you play with him?
I was on tour with Drive the River, and I think we played a couple shows with him out in California in '90. And he was not in good shape then. But oddly enough, they could prop him up. They would get him on stage and prop him up, and he would play his ass off. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then I think he just continued to deteriorate. But that was a distinct honor for sure.
I got a phone call like 2 weeks ago, and it kind of blew my mind. I answered the phone, and it says, "Hello, Craig. This is Edgar Winter."
What?
And I just like looked at the phone because I was kind of connected with him to come on my show, but I'm looking at the phone and he's talking, and at the end of the conference, he was the sweetest guy. And at the end of I'll tell you how nice he was. He just called me to say, "Hey, I want to come on your show. I'm just really busy now, but I didn't want to ignore you." Who does that, right? So at the end of the phone call, I said, "Man, I'm just stuck on one thing." He goes, "What?" I said, "I'm stuck on, hello, Craig, this is Edgar Winter." and he goes, "Hey, man, I know how you feel. When Michael McDonald called me to play on his record, I couldn't believe he knew my music." And then it was over in a puff of smoke. It was like very weird. It was like, I'm like 12 years old in my room, in my rebellious self in my room listening to Edgar, and I'm like, what's he doing on the phone? It's very weird. Anyway,
split your brain in half.
It was like weird. It's happened a few times. It's very strange. You did the Salute to Georgia music concert where you did a rendition of "I've Been Loving You Too Long" with Greg Allman and Chuck Leavell. How did that gig come about, and any cool stories from that?
That was definitely a moment like the one you were just describing. I have had Chuck play piano on a couple of my records. And Chuck is the nicest guy. Like I said, there's so much great music here in Georgia. And a lot of the musicians, we just see ourselves as musicians. We love to play music. It's not about, sure, we have to pay our bills and we understand the game, but I believe most of us stay here because we are more grounded here, and we have a great community. Like you've already talked about the Georgia Satellites and Pete and Chuck, and so those are my friends here in Georgia, and we got each other, So Chuck, after he played on a couple of my records, he was in charge of this Salute to Georgia music, and he gave me a call and asked if I would be a part of the show. And in particular, he wanted me to be a part of this subset within the show. It was a salute to Otis Redding within the umbrella of Georgia music. And of course, who doesn't love Otis Redding? So
yeah,
he asked me if I would sing Otis's version of Respect, which in my mind was terrifying enough because of Arista. And most people have her version, and so there's a little of that. And I had a moment going, "Wow, Chuck, you really think I can pull that off?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, no problem." And then he goes, "And I'd like you to do a duet with Gregory." And I sat there for a minute.
Gregory who?
We always call him Gregory. And then I just sat there. I didn't say anything. I was kind of going, "Do you mean Greg Owen?" And then he reiterated that. And I swear to God, I just set the phone down for a second and sat there.
Wow.
And thought, this is not happening. I can't do this. And I was like, "Chuck, what are you, crazy? I can't do that. Get someone else." And he convinced me of it. And then the gig was in 4 weeks later. And I just, I sang those two songs over and over and over in my house 24/7. And when I'm doing the dishes, I'm like,
Yeah.
I've been loving you. I never stopped with myself. And, you know, it was a great moment in my career. I adored Chuck. I adored Greg. And the band, they were friends of mine, and we were backed up by the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, and it was at Symphony Hall, and I knew tons of people in the audience, and it was the most amazing night. And there's video.
That's so cool.
There's
I watched it.
And I gathered most of it because I could put out the word, hey, if you got any video, send it to me. And they did. And I put a little video together, and after Greg passed, you know, I put it up as a tribute. But, woo, you know.
That's so cool.
I don't know about you, but I grew up with Greg, right? On the radio.
Oh, 100%.
And they make everyone feel like
Absolutely.
your family, right? It's like you're in on something. And so, and not to mention the fact that at that point in his life, he looked just like my dad.
Oh,
it was
wow.
the darndest thing. So he didn't show up for a run through. We just had a run through that day. Well, I wouldn't call it a rehearsal. We ran through the song a couple times. And then when he finally got there, we kind of ran through it in the hall and a little bit on stage without the band and without the orchestra. And then we ran through it again in his dressing room. So I hung out with him in his dressing room and learned the song on the piano with him, and just chit-chatted. And I wasn't supposed to, but I kind of recorded it on my phone. I have all this audio of us in his dressing room. Just
oh, that's so cool.
Talking. It's just a little nice thing I have.
Yeah, I saw him, you know, the later version of the Brothers with Warren Haynes and Derek at the Beacon, and we had really good seats, my son and I. It was one of the best moments. And plus the Beacon is just such a great theater. It was just really cool. Yeah. It was really awesome to see the brothers. And then also you did something really cool. You sang the national anthem to open up a Braves game.
For my Braves, yeah.
That had to be cool, no?
It was cool, because growing up here, it's kind of a big deal. You know, everyone here is obviously a Braves fan, and I remember watching Hank Aaron hit the big one with my grandmother, right? So I have all these isolated moments in my mind of markers in my life, Braves markers, right? I remember going, my dad taking me. I remember taking my little brother, little things like that. So when they asked me to come sing, it was a total honor. And I'll be honest with you, the scariest I've ever been in my whole life. Now we've touched on the 3 scariest moments of my career. The first gig, one with Greg, and singing the national anthem for the Braves on July 4th in front of 50,000 people. And one of the reasons I was so scared is because you cannot hear on the field. The delay was so massive that I had to call Dan Baird, because I knew he played a lot of stadiums from Georgia Satellites. And I was like, how?
I had Dan on here. He is awesome. He's so cool.
Dan. I said, how in the hell do I do this? He said, just get your leg moving. So when you watch it, my leg's moving like Dan's always did. And that's when I started doing that, shake a leg.
That's so funny. I didn't know that.
The other scary thing about that gig was they were going to time a flyover. There was 3 or 5 jets because it was 4th of July. And so this military, general or whoever, he was a high up guy in a nice military suit, comes in the dressing room, which was really like Skip Carey's office. And he said they needed to time me singing the national anthem, so he knew when to cue the jets, because they're going to be hovering over Stone Mountain waiting for the cue. No pressure.
Yeah, right. Not at all.
But if you watch the video, and they also they unfurled the world's largest American flag that day. So I was, having an out-of-body experience. But if you watch
That's
the
really
video
cool.
at the end of it, you've never seen anyone so relieved that it's over in their lives.
What a great thing, though. I mean, how many people get to do that, in all the careers that all the people have? That's really cool.
It was an epic moment. Those are two of the biggest epic moments that I, for me personally, that I can think of.
Greg and then the Braves game.
Pretty much.
Switch gears to whatever extent you're comfortable. What were some of the low points or dark periods you've had to deal with, and how'd you get through them?
Well, I'll just touch on the dark career points. Okay. I walked away from my Arista deal, and that was very difficult. But in '91, after I'd turned in a bunch of demos that they didn't like, they finally came back and said they wanted me to be more like Joan Jett.
Oh, that's
Which
probably
I love
not
Joan
gonna
Jett. She's
work
great,
well.
but it's not me. There's already Joan
Absolutely. Yeah.
Jett. So, and I didn't
Right.
know what
I
to
totally
do
get
with that. And I think I tried to kind of carry that mantle for a few months. And I'm the kind of person who I have to be myself. And if I'm not being myself, then I pretty much will self-destruct. And I was already on the self-destructive path to begin with. So I really went, grease lightning down that path. And I woke up one day and I decided if I didn't get out of the deal, I was going to die. Because I didn't know how to separate it unless I just cut the cord. So I called the label and I told them, and they said that was fine. The door's always open, and maybe they thought I was coming back, and maybe they were going to drop me anyway. I have no idea. But I kind of shot myself in the foot in doing so, career-wise and financially for a while.
How? Oh, okay. Yeah, but
honestly,
what was your choice,
if I
though?
had stayed and let them either put out another record, or if they were going to drop me, I had a really big contract that they would have had to buy out. So that.
Oh, okay, I get you.
Mistake number one.
Okay.
So that was painful, but I brought it on myself, which can be more painful than not. Then I remember I was in an airport somewhere in the '90s, the mid '90s, calling in. I had an interview at a payphone. I'm in an airport. I'm doing an interview, and during the interview, they said, "So, I hear you just got dropped by William Morris. What happened?" And I didn't
What?
say that. So that was a great moment in my career. And you didn't even so that actually happened, but you just found out for the first time through the interview person. Yeah, that was great.
Holy shit, that sucks.
Yeah, and then there are other. I was on another label with Walter Yetnikoff. I got a phone call, that same phone call, and so it's been a series of. You go 2 steps forward and 1 step back in my career, but along the way I've really learned so much, not only about myself but about the industry and about just running a business, and now that I'm on the other side of the desk, so to speak, and have been for a long time, I understand where they were all coming from. I just wish it had happened differently.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. So do you put out other artists on your record label?
Well, I tried that, and it did not go well. If you're a label or an agent, the artist will always blame you for their
right
lack of sales or lack of gigs or lack of success. That's just the way it is. I do it. Everybody does it. The Indigo Girls do it. I've heard it from everybody at every level of the ladder, And that happened, and I didn't want to put myself in that position again. I did put out my mother's record. She never complained.
And if your mom complains, so you could just say, "Mom, look, be quiet, please. I'm having a rough day."
That made me really happy. I was really proud to do that, and I would really like to make a record with my mom, like she and I singing together. But she's not real keen on it these days because she's 75 and she's a little concerned about the quality of her voice these days. But I still think
at 75.
Yeah, and I would love to do it. So
that would be cool. That would be great.
Know. We'll do it one day. She
well,
still
plus
comes
two.
up
What
and
a
sings with me occasionally.
Yeah, what a great memory that would be for you and for her too. Even if she like resists all the way, when it's done, you know, that's like, how do you get that back? You know?
Yeah,
that's really cool. Personality-wise, what do you feel the strongest, the personality traits you have contributed to your success the most?
To my success? Let's see.
And hey, let me just comment on that. Nobody thinks they're successful as they should be, regardless of what level.
Yeah.
So if that's what you were thinking, yeah, nobody does.
Well, I was just thinking about all the ways I've shot myself in the foot. But I know that I've been able to, you know, I have an inner strength that keeps me going, and I'm, you know, incredibly persistent. But that's because I love what I'm doing, you know.
Right.
I was raised by some incredibly strong, independent women, and that's really helped me. I've always had this can-do attitude because of them. I saw it work, you know. So, and my parents being blue-collar musicians in my family, it's not about fame and fortune or, oh, I can't tour because I don't have a bus, or I can't make a record because I don't have a label. It's just like, I'm a musician. I'm going to make music, and damn the torpedoes. Let it happen the way it happens.
Yeah.
As long as I can pay the bills, I'm happy, you know.
Yeah. And I can't imagine, like, your mom and then your grandmother, what resistance as women they must have had back in those times.
Yeah, I know.
That, you know, that's pretty impressive that they both persevered through that.
They're my heroes. I didn't used to feel that way until I got older, but, you know, my mother, when I got older, she told me stories about club owners who would tell her to sit in his lap, and if she didn't do it, the whole band would lose their steady grip. Things like that, you know.
Oh, my God. That's gross.
They had to use... They weren't allowed in the front part of the club. They were only allowed to come through the kitchen and use the back door. Just, you know, they had to eat in the kitchen. There's just all these things. And what was acceptable back then and, you know, isn't acceptable now. And that's because of people like my mother. Not that she
people like your mom, yeah, totally.
She had a family to feed. But, you know, that doesn't happen too much anymore.
Let's talk about guitars for a few minutes. What's your go-to guitar right now?
Well,
and what's your go-to? What other two round out your top three? Like, what's your top three guitars?
I have a 95 Martin that it's an HD 28 that I'm in love with. I've almost put pick holes in the front of it. It's just my baby. It sounds better than any guitar I've ever played, and most people that hear it say that. And there's no rhyme or reason because I've bought 3 more of those from the same year that are very close in serial number, and they don't sound the same, but I'm working on it. And then, you know, I try to keep playing them, and so they'll break in, right? So it's a battle. I love my 59 Supro dual tone. It's the one I play slide on.
Okay, so that's an old school Supro. I thought that was a reissue. I wasn't sure about that because I saw you playing that.
Yeah, no, the reissues are good, but they're not the same.
Yeah,
We all know
that's
vintage
cool.
gear 90% of the time sounds better than new gear.
Yep.
And I'm not a technician. I'm more of a Keith Richards, Neil Young kind of hack. But it's a good hack,
Yeah.
right?
You're a good hack. Yeah, man. But
a guitar. And
yeah. No, your
and
guitar
so-
playing is great, and you're playing
Thanks.
awesome.
But so the Supro, you can just have at, it's a beast. And so is that Martin. They both can take a licking, and you can play them hard, and they love it. And they go, "Is that all you got?" So I love those. And then just for standard electric, I play, I think it's like a 74 Tele Custom that I've had quite a while. So
Yeah,
those
you
are my
have
free
some old guitars.
Yeah, I like
That's cool.
guitars. They're shiny.
Hey, I want to talk about some of your music that I really enjoyed. From Day 2, 2012, Marlboro Man. So that was a really beautiful song about your relationship, or really more the distance in your relationship with your dad and how that evolved after his death. Daddy talks to me more now than when he was alive. That was a very, that was intense. Again, to whatever your comfort level is, tell me about this song. And also, you write a lot about your dad and about your relationship, or the absence of a relationship, or just whatever you have with him. I would be interested if you could talk about both of those things, again, to whatever extent you're comfortable, your relationship with your dad and how it's impacted you and your songwriting.
I think he was a bit of a mystery to me, even though I knew him. My parents got divorced when I was like 5 or 6, and I spent every Friday night with my dad, and he would take me home every Saturday afternoon. And so our relationship was extremely truncated, if you will. And
Yeah.
I loved the time I spent with him, but it was always a little awkward. He lived about almost an hour away from me, so when he would pick me up, we'd have this long, quiet drive. And
Yeah.
I'd either listen to music or nothing. And there was not a lot of talk. We'd go fishing. Of course, you don't talk when you're fishing. And he was just kind of mysterious. Even though he and I are so much alike, I even look like him. And my mother says to me all the time, "You're just like your father."
Just
So
like
I
your
believe
father.
her.
Yeah.
And, gosh, I love my dad so much, though. And it's very true. I got so much closer to him after he died because we talked all the time. I mean, I know that sounds wacky. I would talk to him.
No, it doesn't.
I
Doesn't
did
sound
not
wacky
hear
at
his
all.
voice in the real world, but I could hear his voice in my head, in a nice way.
Yeah.
And in my
Yeah.
heart. And that's so important to me. I still talk to him.
Well, you really do a lovely job of communicating all of those things that you said in your music. Yeah, really good. And as someone who had a strained or has a strained relationship with his father, I was really appreciative of all the things. I mean, you really did a great job lyrically on all these songs.
Thanks. I have had a lot of people come up to me after a show if I sang that song in the show, and they'll tell me, "Yes, my dad was the same way. My dad was very quiet. We never talked. I wish we had, And then I've had dads come up and thank me. Because that raised an awareness to them. And then they would, I assume they would go try to be more open with their kids, So.
That's awesome if you could impact a change like that. Holy crap.
It's not me. It's just the music. I mean, I'm a conduit. I used to take credit for it, but I don't anymore.
I get it. But that you're the conduit that, that's really like you're paying it forward in a big way.
I'm just trying to work out my own BS, It's not like I'm trying to say, I'm just trying to figure out my life. And this
Aren't
new
we
song,
all, Michelle?
Yeah. The new song about him on my new record is pretty special to me. I really love that one. It's called Buck Knife Man. And, you know,
We're going to talk about that more.
I've written a couple songs about my dad now, and my mother's so jealous. She's always like, "You got a song about me on your new record?" Like, Mom, I know
Mom, you were too nice. There's no scars. Yeah.
Well, you know, we have a lot of baggage, my mom and I, but we've worked through a lot of it, or just stepped over a lot of it.
That's cool.
I can't write honest songs about her while she's alive because she'll just give me hell.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, you honestly do a great job of that. Matador, love that track from Slings and Arrows, 2018. Great groove in that song. Stinging lyrics. How did you never see this coming? Matador, I never saw your sword. You don't have to get into the details. Just, was that written specifically for someone, or is that just a thing, a scene that you drew up?
Well, most songs are about more than one thing. So I'm sure it was a conglomerate of a lot of moments and a lot of feelings and things. I don't remember the exact subject, but I'm sure there were many.
Okay. Great song.
Thank you.
You have a great sound in the rhythm guitar on that track. I was just curious if you, long shot, if you remember
That's the telly.
That's the telly. What were you playing through? What amp? Because it sounded great.
I either played through,
if you remember,
a little Super, or I play through an old Blackface Deluxe. Those are my
it sounded
tools, my go-tos.
Yeah, it was a great track, great rhythm on that track. So let's talk about the new record. It's called 1977, and I'm assuming that wasn't about what. In your bio, there's a quote where you said, 1977 is the year I started playing guitar, the year I started becoming me. So music from that era has always felt special. It takes me back to a place that was safe, sound, and comforting. And I just wanted to ask you, I think about that myself once in a while, about why the past often seems so safe and mellow. And like, at least for me, it definitely wasn't my home life because it was anything but safe and mellow. But in many ways, it was the music, the soundtrack of our youth that made things peaceful. And I'd love to hear your take on that.
I agree with you about it being the soundtrack of our youth that, is comforting. And I think it's partially because they were such carefree days, more or less, And not that my home life was great, because it wasn't, but I always have had music to escape to and to make me feel better. And also to make me feel better about myself. And, music, like sports or anything that you can excel at, makes you feel better about yourself. And little kids need that. That's my 2 cents there. But big kids need it too. So it was just a nice place to revisit and go back to in 2020 especially, because there was a period of time where I didn't know what was going on and I was afraid and everything was so chaotic in the world. So that was my escape. And then it really got in me when I started writing. Oh, and I'd like to preface that also by saying that I had been touring for 2 weeks in California, like February 15th through the end of the month. And I got home on March 2nd from this long, beautiful, relaxing California tour. And that really got on me too, like the vibe and the music and the ocean and, So when I got home, I had California on me and in me. And then I started listening to all the Laurel Canyon music of the 70s. Because I I needed comforting. I needed to be okay with being home and being calm and all that. So I didn't turn to the Rolling Stones, Exile on Main Street, like I would normally do to just listen to music. I went to a different place, and that really had an effect on my music. It reminded me of how great the music was, and I didn't write these songs just on purpose to reflect that. It was just, it's what I'd been listening to, you know?
Yeah. You have a track on there, I'm Not Who I Used to Be. I thought it was a great track, and I really thought the rhythm and the lead served that song perfectly. But I did have a question about the lyrics. Who did you used to be, and how have you changed?
Well, I think we've covered that in the past 45 minutes. Don't you? I'm so, with almost every passing day, the goal is to be better, to learn something, if not out there, learn something in here. You know, I'm always striving to just be better, and that helps you grow, I believe, if you're able to get there.
Do you have a favorite song on the record?
I have so many. Lately, it's been The Bodyguard, because I really like the story. But I love the song about my dad. I love the song about my granddad. This is one of my favorite records that I've made. I really feel that I'm in it personally. And I got to explore a lot of parts of me that I don't normally go to. Probably because I was home and not having to tour, and I really got to go deeper inside, and I didn't have to think about making a record that of songs that I could play in a loud bar, you know, and people would listen. It was more like, I'm just going to write to soothe my soul, and then wow, it became a record, right? So it was almost getting a second chance to start all over again.
Yeah, that's pretty cool way to look at it. Are you? And you're going to be? I know you got a tour coming up. You're going to be touring this record.
Yeah, we'll head out this summer. I don't have the schedule yet, but we plan on hitting all the major markets and secondary markets, and then all the cool little tiny markets, because I love to play music, and I have a really great band right now, and I don't know how much of them I'll be able to take on the road to these shows, but I generally, if I'm not taking my band, I'll tour as a duo, and my guitarist is Doug Keys, and he's like, you know, my brother, and we play so well together and travel well together, so I always look forward to traveling with these guys. They're just my family, you know, and it's exciting. I look forward to it.
Give me your top 3 Michelle Desert Island discs. No particular order, and just for this minute. I know.
They don't make
it's a terrible question.
Sense.
It's all right. Makes sense to you. That's all.
Well, Exile on Main Street is a big one. I think Linda Ronstadt, Simple Dreams, and Steely Dan Asia.
Great records.
And that's just today at, 119.
Yep.
119.
And that's how it works, just like that. Tell me the best decision you ever made.
I'm still waiting for that one.
Pending.
Yeah. Answer pending. The beach ball is just going to keep rolling on that one. I don't know how to answer it.
That's all right. Do you have any? Do you have hobbies outside of music?
I started drawing little doodles a couple years ago. I enjoyed drawing. They're like goats who play guitars and things like that. And I actually started selling them on my website and giving them to my Patreon followers sometimes.
That's great.
It's pretty fun. There's silly drawings, you know. I can't draw people, but I can draw animals.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun. And weird little creatures that look like giant teeth and things. I don't know. But I just go with it. And then I like to play drums. That's my hobby. It's a musical hobby.
Yeah, you got a cool drum set.
It's a good hobby. And I like to read. But yeah, my stepdad's a drummer, and he taught me when I was a kid. And it's the most fun I ever had. And you can't think about anything
Drumming.
else when you're drumming because you're using every appendage that you've got. Your brain is very busy. So for someone like me,
right,
whose brain is always busy anyway, but busy in a bad way, drumming is great.
I think you need a drawing goats who play guitar T-shirt, Michelle Malone T-shirt. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I haven't heard that one. Goats who play guitar.
It's silly fun. It makes me laugh. I'm always looking for things that make me happy, you know.
Yeah. God, I hope so. You know what? This is silly, but there's this like on social media. I always watch animal channels because it's like low stress. Animals don't talk about politics, right? And they always have these little baby goats jumping around, and like they're so cute. It makes me want one. I can't have one, of course. I wouldn't get a goat. I've done a lot of nutty things, but they're like very cute for the record.
I like the whole idea of yoga with goats, and then a friend told me she tried.
They have that.
It's really smelly and annoying.
Yeah, they have that down here in Tampa.
What do you think was going to happen?
A couple more questions, and thank you for everything. Tell me the most fun thing you've ever done.
Gosh. I have no idea. That's a great big question.
That's a new question I just came up with.
I really like playing music, and I'm not sure of what it is, but it would have to do with playing music, probably. Most fun I ever had. The beach ball's spinning again. I don't know what to say.
Pending.
I had a great last week. I was out on the West Coast for 4 or 5 days. I had a couple of shows in San Diego and in LA, and I got to take my band out. And so when you fly all the way from Atlanta to LA, you need travel days, and then you need to cushion in a day or so to get acclimated. So we had some time off at the beach, and we just hung out, and we got ice cream, and we played a big party for someone who flew us out. And I mean, I feel like my whole job is about having fun, and it's work, right, and it's very physical, and it can get stressful and things. But at the end of the day, I just look back at all these gigs as such a blessing. I mean, how lucky am I to get to do what I love for a living? I get paid for it, and people still like it. I mean, that's my idea of fun right there.
Definitely. And the last question, and you might have answered this actually, but biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years, and where do you see yourself going in the next 10, if you can think of that?
Wow. Okay. I got a lot of awareness now that I didn't have 10 years ago, and I have a lot of gratitude now that I didn't have 10 years ago, and that has completely changed my life. So I'm all for that.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Gratitude, self-awareness, and gratitude. Those are bookends. I wish more people had.
Totally. I agree. Yeah. You tend to be a little more mellow if you get that. How was COVID for you? Did you get anything out of the downtime besides a great record?
Well, my downtime, I wasn't stuck at home as long as a lot of other people were. I started playing shows not long after. I started playing public venues again in maybe July of 2020.
Oh, that's
great. And they were limited capacity and things like that. And then prior to that, I decided to make it work, right? So all my gigs canceled, and I'm a can-do person, and so I figured it out. I started Patreon, I started live streaming, and I started these things called 6-packs. Or no, they were 4-packs. People would hire me to come stand in the yard and sing them 4 songs. I'd jump out of my car, stand in the yard, sing 4 songs with my acoustic guitar, bye, get in the car and leave. And I did a whole slew of those in April and May.
That is really
like
smart.
Public service, but it helped me pay the bills, and that was amazing. And I got to know a lot of people that way that I didn't normally get to meet, because you're almost one-on-one. Some people, it was just 2 people. I literally, some woman hired me to go sing for her husband on his birthday, and he stood on the stoop, and it was just he and I. I was just singing to him, things like that. It was fascinating. It was a beautiful thing.
That's pretty clever.
I'm sure I saw it somewhere online. I couldn't have come up with it. I mean,
well, you did it though. A lot of people see things, don't do anything. In fact, most people see things and don't do anything.
I'm sure it's trial by fire. You have bills; they must get paid. You figure it out.
Yeah,
that's how life is.
Right. No, I feel you. What is it? I can't think of the adage. Necessity is the mother of invention, basically. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's a really clever idea.
It was there was that, and then my community grew because I was meeting different people through live streaming and through the Patreon and through the 4-packs, and then I was able to make it work, and everyone was so grateful to me, and I was so grateful to everybody, not only because it helped me pay my bills, but it helped me feel better. I felt more secure and safe, like I had a community of people. We were all going through the same thing, and we were relating in a positive way. We were uniting and coming together in a positive way, and it wasn't all this division and all this fighting. And so that really helped me.
Good. Hey, I want to tell people where to find. First of all, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed your music, listened to everything. It was great. And if you come down in Tampa, I will come see you. And of course, love to see you in person. Okay. So Michelle Malone, it's 2 L's. Go to michellemalone.com. The new all of her records are there, but the new record is called 1977. They're streaming everywhere. If you want to buy the records and support Michelle, please go to her website. I loved Stronger Than You Think. I love Day 2. I love Slings and Arrows, and the new record is phenomenal.
Thank you so much.
She is.
Wow.
No, thank you. I really, no bullshit. Because I've had people that I've listened to their music and I wind up calling them, like, I don't want you to think I'm just saying it. I actually did, because I would never say that if I didn't like the music. Because I've had people, not with Patty, but I've called them like, hey, I'm sorry, we can't do this show, because I can't tell people I like music when I don't. Talk about, you are available also to do some teaching. You teach songwriting actively, and to whatever extent you'd like, please talk about those things and how people can get a hold of you if they're interested in those things.
Yeah, so I do occasionally teach a guitar lesson, usually to not beginners, but
intermediate and up.
Intermediate, yes, we'll use that. I've never had a guitar lesson, and I don't always know how to teach, but what I have gathered, and while I have taught people, is that they really just want to learn how to play songs. So that I can teach, and I enjoy that, but I've only done it virtually like this, and that works well. In fact, this platform would be great for it. And as far as the teaching songwriting, I'm part of a retreat called Muse Destination Workshops. We may have already changed it to Muse Destination Retreats, but we have a Facebook page. And I think for at least 8 years, we've done 2 retreats a year. And there's songwriting, there's painting. My partner's a painter, and she teaches that class. Occasionally we'll have a guitar teacher, or we'll have the next session's in September, and we have a yoga teacher who teaches Kundalini yoga. And then
Are you bringing goats or just yoga? No goats.
No goats. And and it's now we have it in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Georgia. And people fly in from all over the place, and it's a very limited seating, if you will. We can take about 20 students total. It usually lasts about 4 days, and we have the most fun. And what it ends up being like is people come thinking they're going to learn to paint or learn to write a song, and in the process they also make great friends. They become they just get a nice boost of self-esteem because everyone's very supportive, and a lot of people come there with their baggage and they work it out, you know, or a little of it. I mean, we've had some amazing breakthroughs, not just artistically, but just emotionally in people's personal lives. You know, you can't separate that from human, and it all comes out there. It's fascinating. So it's a very therapeutic thing to do. But I don't always, I'm not always songwriting teacher, because I taught like the first 5 or 6, and then I thought, well, a lot of times I get repeat students, so maybe we should get a different teacher and let them get a different perspective and different tools. So I've hired people like Will Kimbrough and
oh yeah, I had Will on here too.
Yeah,
no, Will.
And Sarah Peacock and Elliot Bronson, who I co-write with a lot. He co-wrote 2 songs on my last record and 2 songs on 1977, so I really respect him as a writer as well. And then I'm teaching again.
Okay, and that's Muse, M-U-S-E, Destination Retreats?
Yeah.
So check that out if you...
Yeah, it's either Muse Destination Workshops on Facebook, or it's been changed to retreats. But yeah, we'll tell you all about it. I still have room for, I think, 2 more students in the fall.
Great. And are you on? Do you want people to follow you on social media, or where do you want people
to all that good stuff. You know. My music page on Facebook, I think, is just Michelle Malone Music. There's about 20 some odd thousand people there. That's how you know it's me. There's a fake page that has no one on it. That's not me. And then I'm on Instagram. I just signed back up for Twitter. I have like 2 followers, so it's on Twitter. They wouldn't give my name back, so it's the only thing I could come up with that was close was Michelle Maloner. So I put an R on the end of my last name, and that's my Twitter handle.
Yeah, I don't get Twitter personally. I mean, a lot of people love it, but you know, I'm not a big social media guy.
They wanted me to be on it, so why not?
Alrighty. So MichelleMalone.com. Check out Muse Destination Workshops or Muse Destination Retreats if you're interested in going to this very relaxing retreat in the middle of the Blue Ridge Mountains in September. So it's starting to get a little cool in theory, right?
That's right. You never know.
Yeah, in theory. And I hope to see you on tour. And everybody come check out Michelle's new record. It's 1977. And again, if you got time, listen to Stronger Than You Think. Day 2, Slings and Arrows are all great records. Really enjoyed them all.
Nice.
Thank you for your time. No, is anything else you want to promote?
No, that's about it. But
anything else? Your Patreon.
The Patreon.
You got a Patreon.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about that.
I started Patreon in 2020, and I post on there usually once a week, and it's can be old recordings or old video footage. It can be current behind the scenes things. I do these things called sock reports because I love crazy socks, and people send them to me, and they like. I do little silly videos of that, and then We have fun. It's pretty laid back, and,
cool.
And there's so many levels. There's a $1 level, and then it goes up to $100. So It's something for everyone. They just get different content. And if you want to know about that or the lessons or all that stuff, you can just find me via michellemalone.com. There's a contact page, and I get most of those emails if my name's involved in the email address.
Very cool. All righty. Hold on 1 second. We'll wrap up. And thank you very much for everything. I appreciate it. And thanks for sharing your story, Michelle.
Thank you.
Everybody, thank you. Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, share it on your socials with your friends. Thanks very much to Michelle Malone. Please check out the new record and her whole catalog. It's all great stuff. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I can always mess up with this with split screen. Peace and love, everybody. I'm out. Thanks for listening.